The topic of our presentation today is apparel manufacturing with a focus on global suppliers and the different management styles in place between the suppliers and factory workers, along with the outcomes that come as a result of these management strategies. For the first part of our presentation, we will be analyzing a debate from the New York Times forum titled Room for Debate: The Human Cost of Cheap Clothing, and breaking down the 8 debaters' viewpoints regarding unsafe factory working conditions, specifically in Pakistan and Bangladesh, and who is responsible. Over recent years, factories in Pakistan and Bangladesh have passed safety codes even though windows are barred, doors are locked, and hundreds of people have died in fires. So the question up for debate is, where does the responsibility lie when it comes to improving safety standards in factories that produce affordable clothing, and what can be done about it?
Schilling lists ways the superiors and lower-ranking workers can uphold human rights of factory workers. Some bottom-up examples include trade unions and health and safety commissions. Some top-down examples include timely renovation and inspections and sufficient training. The author Bhagwati blames the Bangladesh government for not implementing laws that would protect employees. McKelney thinks that corporations should approach social responsibility to the highest degree. Van Heerden says that reform is necessary, but autonomy amongst workers is a necessary step towards reform.
Scott Nova and Liana Foxvog argue that it is the brands themselves who must take responsibility for their workers' safety and not rely on global suppliers to maintain safety standards. In order to do this, they suggest that brands increase product prices to maintain profitability rather than cutting corners in costs regarding factory safety. Debbie Chan argues that it is actually up to us as consumers to help support and improve labor rights and worker safety, and that without strong pressure from consumers, profit-driven companies will not have the incentive to protect workers or deliver the necessary improvements. Daniel Eikenson states we need the management and brands with the help of outside Western investment to focus on improving the health and safety conditions of the workplace, as well as reducing negative environmental impacts. On the other hand, Khalid Nadvi uniquely argues that all 3 groups must take different responsibilities for different aspects regarding supplier worker safety. First, he argues, as consumers, we need to be more informed about the purchases we make and brands we support, as well as using our voice to encourage brands to build stronger and more supportive ties with their global suppliers. Second, Nadiv says management and suppliers themselves should be responsible for ensuring decent working conditions and displaying active support for workers' rights and benefits in order to raise quality standards and overall productivity. Lastly, he argues the third group responsible is governments local to the suppliers. In part due to the distance barrier, we need local governments to step up and help in addressing the root causes of social, labor, and environmental non-compliance in order to provide better outcomes for workers, their communities, and the factories in which they work. In the article Improving Working Conditions in a Global Supply Chain by Richard Locke and Monica Romas compares the working conditions of 2 of Nike's supplier factories located in central Mexico. From an outsider's perspective, the 2 factories, Plant A and Plant B, looked identical in terms of their ability to comply with Nike's Code of Conduct and worker safety regulations. But after assessing the factories' management styles through the use of M-Audit, aka auditing, and compliance rating, significant management differences became apparent. Regarding the management styles of each Nike factory, Plant A takes more of a stakeholder management approach, whereas Plant B takes more of a finance management approach. Stakeholder approach involves a cooperative relationship, where it's a collaborative and open relationship between management and the factory workers, where factory workers also participate in decision making. This is adapted from the modular management style, and management determines productivity of the factory by evaluating the workers together as a whole rather than an individual by themselves, which creates more of a sense of teamwork and group cohesiveness. Whereas on the other hand, finance management focuses on a compliance relationship strategy where workers are required to follow orders from management and have no say in decision making. And management determines productivity of the factory by basing off the individual rather as the group as a whole. In response to Nike's previous global supplier management problems, they enacted what they call their new Generation 3 compliance strategy. Through this new compliance strategy, the company is seeking to supplement monitoring management styles with collaborative initiatives aimed at diffusing Nike's workplace and human resource management best practices amongst its global suppliers. While we don't have any alternative suggestions for Plant A, on the other hand, we do for Plan B, and they are as follows. First of all, implementing a cooperative relationship between management and workers rather than a compliance relationship. And second of all, providing an environment where communication is open and factory workers participate in decision-making similar to the environment in Plant A.
After a factory collapse, Bangladesh seemed to be making good strides to improve ethical policies, but after a struggle to keep up with demand, the employees' safety, environmental, and social standards are at risk. The source of the problem are the two accords, only one of which legally binds the companies to the safety standards. Patton quotes Christy Madem explaining that the legal bindings are what help monitor company workforces effectively as the rules are enforced. After the Rana Plaza disaster, numerous hazards were repaired in a lot of different factories. There were numerous factories also shut down, but the fight against collusion, union suppression, and unsafe working conditions is a losing battle for Bangladesh. People are still working in unethical conditions, and victims are not being compensated for their injury or trauma. The decision to sign or not sign the legal bindings that protect employees shows the position the company takes, as in stakeholder or finance. Here you can see that American Eagle, H&M, Intedex take the stakeholder conception, and companies like Walmart, Gap, Target, Hudson Bays, and Saks take the finance stance. People like Miss Bigham who were brutally injured or traumatized need government or company support in the form of compensation and counseling. Global brands have slithered out of responsibility for compensation by focusing on primary sources of household income. It would be hard to enforce global companies considering Bangladesh government operates under the finance conception instead of the stakeholder conception.